Let's see. We'll start off with community backlash because that's like the real hot button issue right now. Because it was like a boom, boom, boom of like things back to back that just hit Bushy Road in the face. It's like a boxing match where you like just catch a person with a jab real quick and like you just kind of stagger them and catch them off guard. It's kind of like what happened with Bushy Road this week because there was, I forget who did it, but it was like there was a blog post that kind of detailed their feelings about the different formats, along with some other stuff that not really relative to the card game itself. And the backlash really stemmed from that because a lot of it talked about how they don't like the design of D era so far, like how the nation system isn't really living up to what it was built to us as, because and I feel the sentiment too. If you are in my Discord, you know that I kind of feel these sentiments as well in terms of how the nation system isn't all it's cracked up to be so far, because Bushy Road seems very afraid and tentative to give us more generic stuff to spread things out. So a lot of skills of the stuff you normally see in decks are normally centralized around the boss grade 3, for example, Bruce getting final rush stuff. Usually they're going to do something, then they'll tack on, if you're in final rush, do something else that's probably pretty incredible for the most part. So a lot of it is, the term that typically is being used is called xenophobic, because it's all centralized on a certain grade 3 or boss to get maximum benefit. However, there's not really a lot of good generic cards, or at least not as many good generic cards as we thought there would be coming into a nation system where things are more wide open. So not being able to change up your deck and have more freedom of expression via your decks, because if you're playing Nirvana, for example, you kind of have to play the overdress stuff by and large to make sure your deck can actually function, because Nirvana functions with overdress. But in my mind, that wasn't the line of demarcation for community backlash. If you know what it is, say it in chat real quick. But there's like a line of demarcation where the issues of people's feelings or people expressing their negativity about D era and stuff kind of came from. And it is the line of demarcation is right here in the producer letter. We're keeping our eye on deck trends, but it is within our expectations. So within our expectations has been like the calling card for people who have negative feelings towards the design and overdress, because whenever something negative happens, they point to this saying here to express their feelings about it. So much so that I kind of banned the expression in my Discord chat, because people were using it in bad faith, in my opinion, in terms of not producing decent conversation. They just kind of came in, interjected within expectations, then kind of like turn tail and run away. It's like drop the within expectations bomb and then get out of there real quick. So in my mind, this is like that line of demarcation where things started to turn in people's eyes, because a lot of the design and overdress to people's minds hasn't been fantastic. Like, it's been decent, but like when it came to like Bruce with Leonard, a lot of people had negative feelings about Leonard because it gave Bruce like a board wiping tool on top of everything else that it can do while you're final rushing. And not all the card or every other triple rare in set 2 wasn't up to snuff of what Leonard can do. So a lot of people started feeling like, well, what's really happening here? And then that set 3 was unfolding when this producer letter came out. There wasn't like a whole lot of things happening that will like change the dynamic of people's decks. And then they dropped this bomb here for within expectations. And then it's like, so all this is intended? So this is what you were planning on doing? And that's where a lot of people's feelings started to shift and change about the design of overdress. Your problem is the clear bias towards one deck. Yeah, like, I don't know why. Well, we kind of talked this in my Discord channel to where it seems they have a clear plan in place to have turn 4 be like the pop-off turn. Like, Persona Ride can't happen until turn 4. Bruce isn't at full power until turn 4. I can't say her name correctly, but the cat deck, I think it's like Laronaril. I think that's how you say her name, something close to that. She gets max power on turn 4. Seems like there's like a clear distinction at turn 4 is where we want things to ramp up for the gameplay, with turns 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3 kind of being like set up, or like getting ourselves to turn 4. And all of the Bruce triple rares do, like, there's Eden, which is pretty good in of itself already, and then Restand gain a crit when you're in Final Rush. Leonard, column sweeper when you're in Final Rush, and if you have Bruce as your Vanguard to get the extra benefit. And then there's Derek, which when you're in Final Rush, you can call a board out if your opponent doesn't commit in and of themselves. So it's like this clear line where it's like turn 4 is where they want to center the deck towards for things to get ranked up in power. So Final Rush is like that ultimate marker of turn 4 get stronger, on top of Persona Ride and stuff like that. So it's just weird how they did that. But when you talk about within expectations, that's where a lot of people's minds start to shift towards, I don't know how I'm feeling about the design of this, if this is how it's intended to be. And then soon after this happened, the blog post happened. And then soon after, like the day after the blog post happened, is where people already had their idea in mind of like there's this clear favoritism towards Bruce, and then maybe Bastion as well, just because Bastion is also strong, but the other decks aren't getting stuff to compete at that Bastion Bruce level. And then we get Bruce's triple rare in the set, which we aren't sure why exactly Bruce got another triple rare when the design or the theming of the triple rares in set 3 was that all of the set 1 overdressed decks got a triple rare support card, except for Barrel Magnus. So that's where that's to me the straw that broke the camel's back of all these different things leading up to it. And oh man, Thursday evening, because that's when Derek came out. Thursday evening was a firestorm amongst the different Discord channels I'm a part of, and on Twitter as well. There was all types of memes about Bruce. There was all types of memes about Derek. There was just a whole crap storm of negativity about things. It was incredible for the wrong reasons. And I'm not defending Derek at all. Like, even though Bruce is my personal favorite deck, I'm also of the idea that I thought the triple rare or a designated triple rare should have gone to Barrel Magnus, or at the very least it should have been usable with Barrel Magnus. Like, there was a way you could have designed Derek to be usable for max benefit in Barrel Magnus and maybe Bruce, and then keep it away from Greedon from being able to use it, because it seems like the idea was them for not to give Greedon an easy access to a board refill, because that takes away like the entire weakness of what Greedon's deck is designed to do, in terms of like minusing yourself for the restand ability and being able to have everything centralized on the Vanguard. Like, Greedon's weakness that you kind of lose cards over time per se, but if you have a free board refill via Derek, kind of wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. So there's a way they could have done it to make Barrow and Bruce use the full capacity of what Derek was trying to do and keep it away from Greedon. They just chose not to do that for some reason, and I don't know why. Solution: don't print cards like Leonard. You see, how do I say this? With the way aggression can like ramp up, or has been ramping up over time, I think a card like Leonard in some capacity is good for Bruce to have, because Bruce, obviously, if you kill your Bruce opponent before they can achieve Final Rush doesn't matter, which is another thing that's another thing that the blog post kind of touched on, because if you're printing all these crazy things that pop off on turn 4, the solution would be to kill your opponent before you get to turn 4. And that's where some fear came out about this everybody having access to a third critical trigger. Because now, if you're going to just try to beat your opponent down and win before they can pop off, just slam your deck with a whole lot of aggression, play 11, 12 critical triggers, and then hope to the Vanguard guys that you check them relatively quickly. That way you win before they can pop off. And the blog post pointed to, it's like, have things pop off, make criticals, or utilize criticals and Russian to beat them before they can pop off. Then you design decks that can withstand that, and then continue on their game plan anyway. It's weird. So we're kind of in that jam aggression and 12 crit to beat the likes of Bruce and Cat before they can get to their big swing turn. And that's why I think a card like Leonard is good to have for Bruce in some capacity, to at least have a way to fight back against people that want to slam the board down and rush you until you can actually get to your pop-off turn. I think the backlash that Vanguard received after this 1-2 punch of the producer letter into the blog post into Derek is warranted, because the design of Overdress just leaves a whole lot to be desired right now. I personally hope that there would be more generic cards to be able to incorporate into your decks. To, like, for example, Admantis in Stoicheia or Alania in Stoicheia. Those are examples of incredible generic cards because they do what the deck is trying to accomplish while also being able to fit across the board in both decks, or in all the decks in the case of Flagberg if you want to go that route. And there's not a lot of cards like that from set 2 through set 3. And I wish there was more of it to be able to utilize. So there's already an issue with deck space in Vanguard already. So having so many cards that require specific name or specific mechanic just makes your whole deck building experience more homogenized. And I'm not a huge fan of that.